This
not gonna say it.
conference will now be recorded.
That's the magic words.
There you go.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call the joint Cottage Grove Fire District Commission meeting to order. It's 6:30. The meeting has been posted at the town and the village. We have a quorum present, and we'll buzz right down to public appearances. Anybody wish to say anything? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on. Discuss and consider the minutes from the May 27th meeting.
I move approval is presented.
And Murphy will second.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
I abstain.
I'll abstain too.
I wasn't here.
Oh, Fogger abstained.
Abstain.
Motion carried. Next item, chief report.
All right, I forgot, I screwed up the staff numbers. We lost 2 members, but I forgot to subtract them from the top, so it's really 38 staff. That's 10 officers, 3 drivers, 23 firefighters, and 2 probationary. Currently at 175 calls for service as of 6:25. Average is about 0.99 calls a day or 1 a day. We continue at that pace, we'd be at 362 for the year. Breakdown is 17 mutual aid, 82 are in the village, 24 are in Pleasant Springs, and 52 are in the town of Cottage Grove. Engine 4 had an air leak on the air system, it was fixed in-house. Engine 3 has a foam system leak, that's repair is still in progress. They took the hose that was broken and we're gonna get a new one made, but they haven't come back yet.
Is that a discharge hose or is that
just
it's
the
leaking in the
foam.
reservoir?
It's where it takes the liquid foam from the tank and injects it into the discharges.
So it's
Yeah,
not a
that was
static
all
leak
line.
per se.
No.
Oh, okay.
We did water fights for training for team building on June 24th, and July will be rural fire drills. So fire drills out in the town. We lost 2 members in June. 1 moved out of the area and the other resigned. Fire department finished the annual festival and it went well. And we received applications for 2 new members. When I called them, I couldn't get a hold of them and neither one of them ended up calling me back. I've called them a couple times now, so they applied, but can't get a hold of them to follow through with the interview process. So see if I get a hold of them or not. Staff milestones was Joe Baker with 4 years and Brandon Fritsch with 20 years, and then he retired yesterday. So that was his last anniversary, I guess. Yeah.
Any questions on the chief's report? Thank you very much. Next item, discuss and consider length of service, retirement awards, and staffing plan for 2026 to include pay per call.
So at the last meeting, I was asked to put together like a draft of a budget. It's pretty early. We don't normally start this till later in the year when we know what some of our expenses are on the trucks. So had a kind of rough guesstimate for some of the stuff and add extra just in case because we don't know where we're going to be for the year yet. But the big jumper, obviously, the budget was supposed to include what it would look like to have length of service and pay per call written into the budget. So you see down near the bottom of it that it went up pretty significantly, but those are pretty big cost items if they're gonna be put into the budget. So, this is kind of how it would look, and I guess we're supposed to discuss whether it's feasible or not.
This conference will now be recorded.
Here, you want to hold on to this, Mike?
No, thanks.
Sorry about that.
Well, I'll just say it's awful expensive.
What was that, Mike?
I said, this is an awful expensive budget. You know, it's we're probably looking at least $90,000 more.
111.
111.
Like I said, the length of service added 15,700 by itself. Paper call would add another 58,000 roughly on top of that. And then the officer pay changed a little bit because we discussed starting to pay the officers a little bit more appropriately. I guess it's still not what a career officer would get or anything like that, but it's more, it reflects kind of the work that they're putting in on top of everything else that they're doing. So,
It was,
It looked
go
like
ahead.
there was an offset too with the one inspections. I don't think that's accounted for in that 111. So you have
yeah, so like down at the bottom,
those are additional costs.
those are just, we don't normally write those into the operating budget for the inspections because I think the municipalities kind of pay 1 or 2% dues.
Yeah.
But you can see like the villages, I dropped, both of them cut in half. Like last year, we spent 8,500 on inspections and it dropped to 4,500, which is obviously not really the increase, but
Yeah, and some of the conversations we had with Kim initially and Kim, when we were talking about like feasibility, there had been a practice of depositing $20,000 from the village, $20,000 from the town into an annual building replacement fund. So Kim was interested at the village board level if there was desire for going away from having to count that in the annual operating budget to help pay for that portion. I believe when I calculated it, it was roughly $38,000 for the town. So the 20,000 would cover a big portion of that. If you would change kind of that funding method. And then obviously for the village, we feel comfortable based off of the budget. This is what I was expecting, but just hoping to get some direction that, we'll account for this as part of our overall increases if there's buy-in from the town.
I'm sorry, but who are you?
The Village of Cottage Grove Finance Director.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I guess I'd heard, I've received comments from folks as to whether or not both the paper call and the length of service to be implemented at the same time for 26. And then along with that, how far back do we go on the length of service? I don't know that we go back to day one for the people who've been on there for 30 years, or I'm just throwing that out, but just, the long-term folks. I guess we're gonna have to kind of
yeah.
pick a date.
It kind of has a disclaimer to that. This 15,700, that's a year, 1 year's worth. That doesn't include any of the back pay for
Okay.
that. So that's not even figured into here for back pay for previous years.
Okay.
Back pay, we were talking about potentially using Pleasant Springs. Was that an option presented to us,
There
right?
was a discussion about possibly doing that. That's one of the things that it could be used for.
I guess for me, it would depend upon if we're gonna start from just throwing a date out there. I'm not married to it or anything necessarily. 1/1/26 and going forward for that 15K versus going back to, you know, whatever date it is, you know. And if it starts at 1/1/26, I don't know that we'd have to eat into the Pleasant Springs money, or all of the, necessarily the Pleasant Springs money, in order to fund something like this.
The state matches the back portion? No, okay.
And it's only $100 a year.
Is the proposal $100, or that's all we could do for the back?
Yeah, I hear you and I understand it's a lot of money and I'm looking at it too, the volunteer, you know, that we're running on volunteers and I feel like this is a good incentive too, keep them.
Or to
And
have
honor
them show
them.
up for, when they're called to go to duty? Is that part of the reason why you want to do this? That,
Help get more people. to-
I wasn't here last meeting, so
So part of it is to try and get more people to join, obviously, because now we're, kind of comes in waves, you know, like we get a bunch of applications, like last year we were up in the 40s for people, now we're down in the 30s, you know. Realistically, our lowest level, we were at 28, so we're still well ahead of where we've been in the past. But it's a recruitment tool for one, and it's also kind of like an incentive to try and get people to come down to more calls. During the day, we're really good. Most nights we're good. Sometimes the weekends end up being a little bit of a struggle, especially like we got a holiday coming up. A lot of people like to go out and do stuff with their families or have fun or go to a barbecue and have a few drinks. So then we kind of compete with them for their time. So it's, you know, we have 38 members. We're not getting 38 responders for every call, far from it. Typically we get about, a really good turnout is in the 20s. The average response is in the teens, like 15, 20. And then a really bad response would be like 10 or less. And the point is to try and get it so that more people come more frequently.
Are you finding other departments have put this in place?
There's
So-
hundreds,
There's,
I'm sorry, what was it?
hundreds of departments use this program in Wisconsin. And it's also, I don't want to, I'm sorry, Nick. It's also a retention thing, so that you can keep people. And that's one of the reasons why you look at considering, you know, after 5 years or 10 years or something like that, that bank's there and you can incentivize people to stay. And because that's building in an account for them. Or even somebody after a couple of years. And that's one of the reasons why you would think about even doing the back pay, because it'll bank, it'll be there for them 5, 10, 15, 20 years. They have to vest too. So a reason to think about back pay for some of those members that maybe have only been on 5 years or 10 years, you're kind of helping them build something and you might get another 5 or 10 years out of them because they're thinking about that building up for them as an award when they're ready to retire, because that's what it is. It's a length of service award program.
There's a couple ways too, when we're looking at the pay per call. A couple options if the whole year is too significant. You could start with 3/4 of the year. So start it on April 1st. That will reduce that increase. Obviously, if you're not changing that pay per call rate the next year, then you're just adding the budget by that 25% of the year that you didn't have. We had Chief bring forward what the department would recommend from a retention and a recruitment perspective. And so that's why the full year is presented in this budget. But there's certainly ways to trim dollars off that if that's what's needed to get it across the finish line.
and I would say too that if you're discomfort with doing both of them at the same time, for us, the priority would be the paid per call. That seems to be more. A lot of the younger people that we have aren't thinking about a retirement fund 15, 20, 30 years down the road. They're working like kind of low income jobs while they're going to school. So if they're getting a little bit of money to come to a fire call, you know, they come to 10 fire calls, that's $150 in their pocket or something like that. It's another thing that maybe it kind of incentivizes them to come a little bit, as opposed to seeing the big picture of a retirement fund 30 years down the road or something.
How would you pay this? Every month or quarterly, or how would you work
We could
this?
do it, I mean, we could do it however you guys wanted. I think the town bills the village quarterly, or do you do it monthly?
I think our contract says monthly, but for cash flow purposes, we do it monthly for Kim.
Okay, so if we were doing it monthly, we could have it monthly.
And who
So
would do that?
we would keep track of it and submit it to the town just on an invoice, just like we're doing the inspections right now.
I'm
I
in
get-
favor of it.
You are.
I know. I just like to spend money.
That's whatever.
And like I said at the beginning of this is like a really rough draft because we haven't done a lot of our stuff yet. Like the trucks get their annual maintenances in September this year. And if there's a big ticket item that is broken on one of the trucks, then obviously that's going to affect our repair budget for the year going forward. If the funds that we have this year aren't sufficient enough to fix it or something like that. So there's a lot of stuff out there that still has to come in. So because we're putting it together in July, we kind of had to add some stuff where it maybe wouldn't have if it was later in the year when we had a better estimate. So it's kind of.
So Mr. Finance guy, how does that work? Do we pay our share? Or are you looking at 50/50 or what?
For the, I think we're talking about a couple different things here. So I think funding the prior service benefit for the volunteer program, I think that can be discussed further at another meeting. I think this specific agenda item there's both budgets for the town and the village are going to be challenging this year. And so, but we want to make sure that we're taking care of the spots of the budget with specifically public safety first, and then we kind of work back on filling the rest of the bucket. So this is to help kind of understand what are the remaining funds in our budget that we have to take care of. So this was, and I appreciate you guys putting that together. August 1st, the equalized value will come out for both the village and the town. So we'll know exactly what we split the cost on. The going forward, the LOSA benefit would be split by whatever the equalized value. So if we're 65, 35.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that was the discussion with the prior service was we could go back every year and figure out what the percentage was, but that was one of the benefits to doing the Pleasant Springs Fund, as you didn't have to go back every single year and calculate what that would have been. It's just a fund to pull it from.
Would that be more palatable for the town, that consideration?
Well, that'd be logical,
Yes,
in my opinion.
yes, I agree.
I guess, trying to figure out an amount to budget for next year.
You have a bug crawling on you.
Oh,
I'm
thank
sorry.
you. We obviously aren't gonna figure out 38 firefighters for a fire call per day, 362 days a year. I mean, but how do you, and I know the first year is gonna be a wag, as far as what to budget, but,
Well, don't you have data from how many show up, probably a formula you can put together to estimate
That's
one call per day?
That's how we
many
came up with
respond?
this so far, is like,
Yeah,
we're
we've
using our
already-
average number of responders per call.
And what was helpful is she did it by month, so we could kind of see the highs and lows and where the calls were. So that would have, the reason why I asked for that data is we could then, if we needed to implement other date other than 1/1, we're January and February high call volumes or low call volumes, and then because we wouldn't want to just assume all quarters are the same. Maybe first quarter is really high, so that would have a significant impact on that budget. But it was really great that was put together. I feel very confident on the estimate that was provided.
So we did talk at the village board a few meetings ago about both of these, and there was appetite across the board to implement both of them.
Both of them?
Mhm. Including the back pay, or the,
How far back did you go?
we didn't discuss that, but I think there was interest in using the Pleasant Springs Fund.
So for back pay, the longest member we have right now joined in 1986. After that, it would be somebody who joined in 1995. But there's a lot of people that haven't been here. We've got a lot of green people too that have been here like 5 years or less, so.
I think we just accounted for all current members.
Yeah.
And that's how we did the calculations.
Which is kind of a retention. We wouldn't necessarily go back to people who are no longer, but thank the people who serve the community and continue to serve.
Just to-
Give me this back pay thing again. I guess I'm sort of missing this.
So they earn $100 for every year served in the
Okay.
past.
Yeah.
And that would go into their retention or their retirement account.
Got it.
So and it would just be for current staff on the roster.
And the state matches that.
Not the back pay.
Oh, okay.
So the reason we're discussing the back pay is like, say we started it right now and there's people like the three of us, like April's been on 22 years. I've been on almost 20. Jess has been on 15 or 20. We would not be vested if we started right now. So we would have to do another 15 years to be vested. So for somebody, that's the incentive of doing the back pay part of it, where if you didn't do that, then right now we'd be starting at zero. Have to fill out another 15 years, and I don't think I'll be here in another 15 years, but. See.
And I think that at the current officer rate too, which is, I guess, adjusted to this budget, is very low compared to comps. And so like, that would have been my question, well, their officers already receiving officer pay, why, kind of double dipping here. But I would highly recommend still including, those people because of the significant difference between what our comparable communities are.
I guess I'm gonna throw something out there. We go back and as far as we need to vest everybody. I don't know that, I hate to say it, guys, but I don't know if we want to go back 25 or 30 years. This program is a great thing, but part of what you guys and gals do, excuse me, is you're volunteers, you're doing it to help your community and whatever else you personally get out of it. And I get what you're saying as far as if I use my original term of 1/1/26, no, you wouldn't be, and chances are you would never be, theoretically. So throwing something out, we take it back so that we vest everybody and see what those numbers look like.
So the easiest way to do that would be go back 15 years, and so anybody that's been here long enough to be vested would be vested then.
I think that's a good idea. A nice compromise in the middle and make sure we set
Does that work for you?
everybody on the same, yeah. I like that.
Or do you want it to go back further?
Whatever they want to do.
To clarify, when you say everybody, are you referring to the people that are no longer here?
No,
Okay,
just the
current
active,
ones.
just the
Okay.
active firefighters,
Okay.
Are we talking about a significant amount of money? I don't think so.
It's not gonna be that much different if you were to go back, invest, and you were gonna go back and include everybody's years of service in totality, or 15.
What was the number, roughly?
I guess that might be interesting to see if the difference is not that significant to include.
70, I would guess it's maybe probably about $5,000 difference is gonna be my guess. I would have to do the math because I really don't think it's gonna be that much of a difference. because
And the reason why
we don't
is,
have a lot of people that have more than 15 years of service.
But those are the people that need to be recognized the most.
and then the reason, I guess, the reason why I was saying it is because, like you guys, like all of us here, money is gonna be tight. And what I'm gathering as a consensus that we're looking at both as opposed to one or the other kind of thing. And if we do the paid on call, which I totally in favor of, you know, the few bucks that I can save, you know,
For the length of
it's kind of like my
service,
grandpa used to
yeah.
say, a buck's a buck. And, you know, we could use it wherever. Are we gonna have to use it for a town's perspective? We could have to for the EMS or whatever's coming up. So, but again, it's just my opinion, and whatever the group likes to do, and we'll certainly follow along.
I think from a emergency standpoint and the fact that we're dealing with volunteers, if it's not that big of a difference, it would be my vote to do the entire back pay as a, you know, a sign of recognition to our EMS and firefighters that have been doing this for so long, because
But you know, when people join something, they join for the way it is right now. They don't join for something going back 15 years.
Mhm.
It's just my opinion, you know, you guys didn't join to get $100 a month or a year or whatever. I mean,
So my
you didn't,
My quick
whatever.
calculations is gonna be between 5,000 and 10,000.
But you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When people first joined, it was volunteer. That's all it was.
So between 5 and 10 is my estimate on the difference. And just, I think what the total was between 70 and 80. Does that sound right?
Sounds about right.
So you're looking at going between 70 and 80 down to 60 and 70. So you're,
I also have a concern about retention too.
Well, that's what Chief was
Yeah.
referring to as far as the paid on call. I mean,
Mhm.
you know, it's just,
And I don't want to sound crass about this, but I guess for several of us, like most of us, like we didn't join for money to get paid for it. We're doing it because we enjoy helping the community.
Yep.
And like me personally, I don't even want to get paid to go to calls or paid for LoSa. That's my personal opinion about it. But you know, we're in a spot where we need to recruit people and we need to retain people. And for me, it doesn't make a huge deal, but maybe somebody who's thinking about joining it might make a big deal. So that's kind of why we're talking about it. And it's like a first step. Like, you know, if we do nothing and then we start declining even more, then we're going to be in a situation where we might have to think about alternatives like hiring staff, which is going to be significantly more expensive than a paid per call or LoSa. Rough estimate right now, to hire one full-time engine, it would take at least, it could be like 14 people. You're talking about benefits and salaries. You're easily over $1 million a year just in your benefits and pay for one fire truck. So this, we feel like it's a pretty easy compromise, somewhere we can start, try something. We're not in dire straits right now by any means. We're doing pretty good, but we want to be ahead of it before we get into that situation. So we're trying to plan ahead and give people as much time as we can to plan because we know that budgets are tight. So for us, this is a first step and we'll see where it goes. It might work, it might help, it might not, but it's a stepping stone, it's a start.
What would you suggest then for the second step?
Then you're gonna be looking at possibly some kind of paid on-call. Like we're talking about paid per call, where every time they come, they get paid. You'd be looking more like a paid on-call where you're paying somebody to sit at a station. It's not the same as like a career where they're getting their full salary. It's more like a, you know, it's a lower pay, but some departments do that, but it's significantly more expensive than paid per call too. So,
You usually have 1 or 2 career staff in the station to supervise and monitor those on-call positions and make sure that there's some type of management or administration levels tasks being done, and there's,
So what do you do? What do you do if everybody shows up and you don't need everybody? You send people home?
for like the paid per call model,
Yeah,
so the pay is broken down by, if you make the truck and you respond as part of the incident, you're paying a different rate than if you come to the station and you're not, like, say the call we get only takes 2 trucks and you didn't make the 2 trucks. We tell people to come down to as much as they can, because let's say we're out on that incident and we get another one, rather than trying to pull off of that one incident. We've already got a bunch of people sitting here at the station. They can grab the next truck, go to the other incident. We don't have to shortchange one incident or the other. So when that happens, the way we broke this down is like the pay rate's different. So the people that are in standby at the station, they get paid less for not being on the truck, not making the
Physical
incident.
call.
Correct.
The other thing too, Mike, is if, say, using his example of the 2 trucks, if it turns out to be, you know, a nasty incident or whatever, and requires a lot of cleanup, they're gonna have fresh bodies down here to help clean up versus the poor folks that, you know, spent however much time at that call, so. It's because right now, there are folks who will come down, sign in, and boogie home sometimes. I mean, I've noticed that when I was still on EMS yet, but like I said, it just would certainly help out in the long run, I believe, for pre-call, during call, and after call potentially, so.
we've already implemented a policy in the last, I don't know, it was 2 or 3 months ago now, to ensure that when we have a call, in order to get credit for that call, and what this is future thinking too, in the event we do pay, but it's more to ensure that staff are available during the call and after the call to help with some of the cleanup and maintenance of apparatus after the event, because sometimes we want people to stick around if we have to wash hose or fix equipment. But it's making sure that we can account for who was on scene, who responded to the station, and in the event we start looking at pay per call, that we're paying people appropriately and that people aren't just coming and going, and that the pay makes sense, that people who are getting paid, that makes sense that they'd be getting paid for their response. So, and like Nick said, we have different rates for those types of responses, if you're on the truck or you're just coming to the station.
seems like you'd almost have to have somebody working that only as their one job to keep up with who's getting paid and who gets less pay and who didn't show up. And
So the way we do all of our incidents, we have a sign-in book for when you come to a call, and you actually have to physically sign into where you were in. Like if you were in the truck, you have to sign into the appropriate truck and sign in your seating position. So really, by us entering our incidents the way we do already, it's just a matter of now you're doing simple. Now you've got to pay the person based on where they were sitting, but you've already got it broken down by where they were sitting. It wouldn't be that much different.
It all gets entered into a records management system too, and then you've got payroll reports. So it's pretty simple.
In the next couple of years, looking to transition leadership into more paid positions to be kind of the interim step between paid per call and paid on call, with more of leadership oversights
Correct.
and being compensated for it.
I cannot think of a budget that we've had at the end of the year. We haven't had a major surplus in the town. You agree with that?
I wouldn't know if I'd classify it as a major, but
Well,
yes,
I mean, 100,000, you know, a
Surplus,
good amount of
yes.
money that could be used for the next year, whatever, you know, to start this thing. we would have the money available to, in my opinion, we would have the available money to do it.
And you have some smoothing that can be done. So like if you wanted to use $50,000 of reserve in the next year's budget to offset the increase, that's a common practice.
Yeah.
Implementing this midway through the year, halfway through the year, 3/4 through the year, is that something that would make it more feasible?
I guess
Kind of splitting up the full
I
cost
don't
over
know
2
that-
years?
I'm still gonna talk about these as two separate proposals here as opposed to one. If I'm hearing Mr. Fonger correctly, and if I hear Mr. Duplay correctly, I don't believe there's any issue against the paid on call for the firefighters, correct?
Right.
Okay, so I'm not trying to prejudge anything, but I mean, it's somewhat amenable to the town for that. I guess I would have to have discussions with the board as far as the, excuse me, the longevity pay. And I guess I'm not against it, but I'd certainly like to see numbers and to be able to make an informed choice. As
Well,
And again-
we're starting this whole thing early enough that we can still do that.
oh,
Before we
agreed,
get to the
agreed.
budget.
There's, I would think, plenty of time between now and this fall to have an idea, a pretty good idea of what we're gonna be up against.
It looks like just again, the town's portion of the LoSA, based off of what's presented, would be just for the 1-year contribution, because that's what's in the budget, is $5,500, assuming a 35% rate. So, I mean, that's not nothing, but
Yeah,
so of the 15,700,
I'm sorry.
of the 15,700,
Okay.
which is what is in the budget.
And the pay per call is divided up roughly the same way.
Yep, it would be. So like the paid per call at 58,000. Would be roughly 20,300 for the town. Again, changing methodology and the ESB funding, it's a wash.
So it sounds like maybe putting these numbers together and taking them to the town board is the next step. Because the village board has kind of discussed and give direction on this.
Yeah, I guess I would want to give full
Yeah,
board
I
a
mean,
kick of the can.
I'm willing to do anything that,
Yeah,
gives us another tool to keep our firefighters happy.
No, we got a great fire department,
No, that's
I mean,
exactly
that's,
what I'm saying.
good leadership, my opinion. I don't know what anybody else thinks.
Well, he did say he's gonna quit in the next 15 years.
Yeah.
this is a little bit off track, but still quite related. Chief Lang is on here. And if we're going to go down this road with the fire department, I know the volunteer situation is
Good point.
much different there. However, as a member of the EMS commission, I guess I would like to perhaps explore very seriously offering the same thing to the volunteers that are remaining at Deer Grove also.
Yeah.
And I don't know if,
The village board did discuss that a little bit too and was interested in pursuing that as well.
so I guess there wasn't too much pushback from the village. Hey, Chief Lang?
Eric,
No, if you can hear me, could you put together some numbers for the EMS commission, please? Along the same lines that we've been talking about here? And you can text me or let me know if you hear this at all or anything. So I guess the agenda is going to go out for our Monday coming up town board, but we could certainly, at the town's perspective, put it on our second July meeting for discussion and possible action. That should,
So just to help you with buyback, with longevity, so you have a number, it's 449 years at $100 a year. So that total number for buyback years that you, if you were looking at Pleasant Springs funds for that, would be $44,900.
44.9.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you were gonna cap it at 20 years, it was 37.4. You could cap it at other years. They gave different numbers. But if you were gonna do all of it in its totality, and this was based on the roster that we had a month ago, and now I could tell you that roster has changed because people come and go. So a month ago, that number was 44.9.
But you could also start that today. Rather than going back 15 years or 20 years, right?
Then it'd be zero.
You could do it, right?
Yep, then it'd be zero.
Mhm.
But people close.
Oh,
to
you're so
retirement
funny all the
wouldn't
time.
see benefit.
And I'd like to see what our board's gonna say about this. Just, I mean, it may not be as significant in the village, but it's significant for us.
And I think we need somebody to come and brief the board,
Yeah.
just like we're doing right now today. With bullets or something that,
What's your
we want
schedule-
her.
What's your schedule look like, chief?
Third Monday in July.
Be a third Monday, so the 21st.
I'm sure the village board would appreciate some type of memo too, maybe that just summarizes everything that we've discussed over the last handful of meetings.
We're elected people. Money means nothing.
Whoa.
That's my opinion.
I'll remember that when we buy a new truck.
No, not that.
Eric said he would gather info and report.
I'm sorry?
Eric said he would gather the info and report back to the
Okay.
EMS Commission.
I guess I'm usually not into making motions, but I guess I would move that we table this until our next meeting, after the town has had a chance to discuss and
That's the
take
second
action on
meeting, right? The one in July?
correct. This will be the second fire meeting for July.
Okay. Oh, in July, okay, for the fire.
Correct, because
Got
we'll
it.
go back to our regularly scheduled fourth Monday. Okay, that's all right. So I make that motion. Is there a second?
Okay, I would second.
We have a motion to second to table till the second July meeting of the fire commission meeting. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Next item, update on future facility needs and potential studies.
I could probably take this one.
Sure, go right ahead.
Actually just edited the document again this morning because I met with Chief Lang. So we have a scope that basically encompasses both the EMS and the fire studies that were done a couple of years ago. The first part of the scope would be kind of just revisiting what those two studies and kind of bringing them together. And then looking in the next year, 5 years, 10 years down the road of what additional facilities might be needed, where it might need to go, what operations might look like, kind of getting those recommendations moving forward. So I'm just cleaning up the document and we'll send it back to
Okay.
Chief Archibald and then also to you.
Now, some of the points in the most recent studies that were done haven't changed realistic. And so I would hope that the scope of the new one would kind of keep those off the table and really kind of narrow things down more than what the previous ones were?
Yeah, so the way I kind of edited it today was to better define the intent that we've already done all of this work and there's really kind of no reason to rehash it unless something major has changed or they have some major finding. But just to kind of briefly review it and then move on to what we actually need, the work that needs to be done, which is then highlighted separately in the scope. So.
Okay,
So we wouldn't hire anybody, we'd do it ourselves.
So it would be looking to either go out for putting out a formal RFP or to solicit proposals directly from whoever we recommend.
But why would we do that? Why do we need another study?
I think that,
Like, we're not smart enough to figure this stuff out? You don't think so?
no, I think that
Oh, man.
our board and future boards will,
Studies,
using a consultant to
Studies
give
are for
unbiased
lonely people.
advice is important.
yeah, I'd be curious to see where you concentrated, your thoughts on as far as what aspects that may not have been addressed
In the
or have
past.
changed significantly from the previous study. Send it over and
Okay. Yeah, just,
we'll give it our,
it's a little messy right now, so I'll just clean it up and send it to you probably tomorrow.
okay. All right. Will it be prior to our second meeting in July of the towns? Like,
I think so.
okay,
I think that could be a good goal to get that on the both village and town boards for the second meeting.
okay.
Maybe I can just touch base with Chief Archibald and talk if you have any additional comments or clarifications you'd want in that scope.
Okay. Anything else on the study? Next item, meeting date and agenda items.
Got it down for the 28th.
Yep. 6:30, because that, the 28th is also landfill. Did you change up landfill committee members?
Renee is on landfill.
You guys, okay,
We'll
Alright.
meet right
Yeah.
before. 6,
okay.
is that right?
28th at 6:30, everybody? Okay. So shall it be written, so shall it be done.
Any specific agenda things or just continuing what we're
well-
still doing?
I'm thinking the length of service paper call will be back on. Probably do some preliminary talks on the study, letting everybody know what everybody decides, seeing it's gonna be, just a week after. The usual stuff and
Chair so deems.
I'm sorry?
This is the chair so deems.
Sorry, this reminds me of one other thing for future agenda. Similar to this budget, the ESB budget.
Oh, okay.
If we could talk about that earlier than normal.
Which,
What was that?
what'd you say?
The emergency service building budget.
Okay. Did you come prepared to talk about it tonight?
I did not.
Okay, good. Makes me feel better. I thought maybe I might have forgotten an agenda item. Oh, so, okay,
Sure.
all right. Anything else?
We'll adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Duplays, second by Founder to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, everybody.
You might want to do that today, 'cause I'm wondering if that's right to get in, and I'm not back to